emphasize one thing, Noah? I just,
Sure.
and I think for all of us here, I'm guessing when we say halacha, we mean exactly what you just said, Rabbi Noah. We don't just mean the ritual things, keeping kosher, keeping Shabbat. Yes, it means where do we stand on immigrants? It means who do we take care of in our society? It means how do I speak to my neighbor? It means all of those things. So when we as rabbis at least say halacha, we're talking expansively as just how do I live my life. Halacha means the walking, the way we walk. There's a TV show, The Mandalorian, where they said this is the way. So that's what we're talking about. Like, what is the way?
Yeah, so I would
And now
have to
you have the
disagree. I'm sorry, you were done. From an Orthodox perspective, perhaps I could agree with you on the micro. However, on the macro, when we say halacha, that we mean something sourced out and that essentially can't change. We can view it a little differently, but it doesn't change, and it's not really defined as social action. Perhaps on any other topic that halacha doesn't cover, that could be what's called midat hasidut. I mean, it could be a nice thing that we do, but we try not to compromise the term halacha by just equating it to just mere ethics.
So okay, so I want to pull this apart a little bit because I've had this disagreement with I've seen other. So when I say it, what I mean is halacha has always been, what does Torah teach me to do in this situation? And there are new situations that come about in life, because clearly you're not going to say, oh, halacha has nothing to say about electricity on Shabbos, right? You're not going to say that. So there's always new situations in life, and Torah tells me how to act in those situations. I have to think, I have to use my brain, I have to say, okay, the Talmud doesn't mention electricity. So what, as Rabbi Reuben said, what source in the Talmud is relevant to the question of using electricity on Shabbos? The Torah doesn't talk about, well, it actually does talk about immigrants, but when there are contemporary situations, ethical, ritual, whatever, I have to apply Torah wisdom to that situation. Now, you're right. If there's no Torah value that applies, sure. But at least from my perspective, Torah has something to say about every aspect of my life.
I would slightly disagree. It seems that the Torah itself never endorsed independent study on any specific issue. It established a court for us, known as the Beit Din HaGadol. It had many different names, the Anshe Knesset HaGadolah, eventually the Sanhedrin, and it said, do not stray from the right or to the left of what this court establishes for you. They will give you the Torah. Now, again, from a macro perspective, we don't need this court to encompass everything. Like in terms of electricity and Shabbos, there's even much nuance in Orthodoxy within that. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach wrote Minchat Shlomo. The rabbi who had the largest funeral in Israeli history actually believed that you weren't in any way violating a malacha by using electricity on Shabbos, although he himself didn't use it. He said essentially it was his middle not to use it. I mean, showing that in some cases there's even more nuance within Orthodoxy, essentially nuance not departing from the actual source text instead of just nuance for nuance sake. And I think that's the way Orthodoxy views other streams of Orthodoxy.
And for the following question in the chat, so Reform has permission to do whatever they want and never say that they failed to meet the standards?
Yes. We don't talk about standard. We talk about working on ourselves and learning and making our own decisions and understanding why. I'm not saying just, oh, well, let's make our own decision, but based it on learning and understanding and asking questions and trying to understand what the halacha and the Torah and all the things that we had from the past have taught us. And also, what is the situation and what is the question that is up to today? We don't talk about standard. There's no meeting a standard in order for us to be Jews, well, except the only one that I always give the example of is you can't believe in another God and say that you're Jewish. That doesn't work. But apart from that, just like any other person who is born Jewish and always will be Jewish, it's also true for anyone else. There's no standard that you need to meet in order to be Jewish. That's who you are. Now, what you do with it, that's your responsibility.